y'all. My name is Jasmine Jones. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and you are now watching Black Girl, a Therapist in the Wild. And this is a little series I like to call Therapist Sips and Reviews. Today we are sipping on Welch's papaya, or passion fruit. I think it's passion fruit juice, and creme de cacao, which surprisingly tastes really good. The chocolatey flavor from the creme de cacao makes it just goes together. But anyways, today we are reviewing Lovecraft Country Episode 5, Strange Case. This episode is just giving me all of the things, and it was amazing. It dived deep into, what would it really be like to be a white person? What would it be like to be in the devil's playground, basically, and being one of the devils? And oh, the little black thing came off again. Where'd it go? Probably sitting on it. There we go. So, and it also just gave me just high key Death Becomes Her vibes, which is a movie that I love, and it's not exactly like, but just it just gives me a feeling of Death Becomes Her. Anyways, so we start this episode off with Ruby. She is laying in the bed so this is William's house that he took her to. So Ruby didn't take him back to Letty's house, which is what I thought. He took her back to his house, to Christina's house. And a lot of you were saying, like, there's this theory that Montrose is Christina and they're the same person because you never see them in the same room together. But, they were on the bridge when George got shot. All of them were. Everybody except for William. So, yeah. Anyways, but I think it's a good theory. I think Montrose is just traumatized by all of his life and all the things that have happened in his life, and he is doing reckless, dumb shit to protect his child. I think we've kind of solidified that with this episode. Anyways, so Ruby wakes up as a white woman, and she is just in shock about her looks. She's in the mirror. She doesn't know what's happening. She can barely walk. She runs out of William's house. She's running down the street in this robe that she put on. She doesn't know what to do, where to go, how to get home. And, all the black folks in the neighborhood are just looking at her, like, asking her if she's okay, and asking her, can they help her, and all this other stuff. And then she runs into this little black boy, and he's walking down the street with popcorn, and he drops his popcorn, and he's asking her, like, are you okay, ma'am? Are you okay? And Ruby is just standing there in shock. She doesn't know how to respond. And for a quick second before she runs into the white boy, she stands in front of the glass of this barber shop, and she's looking at herself in the glass. She just still can't register that, she's a white woman. And so after she runs into this little boy, the police just magically appear out of nowhere and start to tackle this little boy. They're calling him an animal. They're saying, what did you do to this lovely white woman? And Ruby's in shock, so she doesn't know what to do at first, because when the police pulls up, her and the little white boy are both putting their hands up. They don't know, like, she doesn't know, like, that's a reflex at this point. Yeah. So as she's seeing them, like, beat up this little white boy, call him all sorts of this little black boy, and call him all sorts of names, she's just like, snaps out of it and says, he didn't do anything. He was just trying to help me. He didn't do anything. And the police officer's like, you don't have to defend this animal, man. This boy looks like he's all of 12. A tall 12, but he looks like he's all of 12. And he's just laying there on the ground, like, not knowing what the fuck to do. And she just reassures the police officers that he has nothing to do with anything. He was just trying to help her. So they leave the little boy alone. They put her in the police car because apparently her husband, which turns out to be William, is looking for her, and he gave them some lie saying that she has some kind of mental illness or some shit. So they take her back to William's house. She doesn't want to go back there. She's freaking out, all this other stuff in the cop car. And then all of a sudden, a la Werewolf in Paris, her body starts creaking and doing all this weird crampy shit. And so apparently she's about to molt or some shit and turn back into a black woman. She then gets to William's house, and William has plastic all over the floor, so we know some gross shit's about to happen because it's like Dexter. So we got some Dexter, we got some Werewolf in Paris, we got some Death Becomes Her, all the things. And she lays on the floor, and he takes a knife, and she's just like, I don't want to die, and he starts talking about butterflies and butterflies molting and all this other stuff. And metamorphosis and shit. And then he takes a knife and slices her chest open. And then we go to Montrose in Yahima's room, looking at the blood on his hands. So this is the next day, the next morning. He has killed Yahima. Yahima, I think that's the way you say her name. He has killed her, and he hears Letty and Tick coming up the stairs, talking and laughing and joyous about their new finds and discoveries and what they're gonna figure out once they talk to Yahima and all this other shit. And they come in the room, and Letty's like, where's Yahima? And Montrose is just like, she's gone. And he looks at Tick, and then Tick knows what's going on. Tick's just looking at him like he's fucking crazy. And then Tick jumps on this motherfucker and starts pounding the shit out of him. And Tick is a lot big, the actor that plays him. So imagine if those hits were real. They probably would have broke that motherfucker's body. But, Letty calls the people in the boarding house to come get him, the other men there. They pull him off of him, and then he asks him, where is the pages? Where are Titus's pages? And Montrose doesn't say anything, so he just looks at Tick, and Tick just kind of understands, and we can, as the audience, assume that he burnt them motherfucking pages. So he's just trying to get rid of this is not how you protect people. You don't protect people by forcing them to do things that they don't want to do, because that's just going to make them do it even more. Whether they're children, adults, teenagers, young adults, if you tell somebody not to do something and they really want to do it, that's just going to fuel the fire of them doing it more. But he doesn't understand that. He killed this poor woman, and Tick was calling her a her in the last episode, so I don't know, maybe she's intersex or whatever, but she was looking fine when he said that, so I'm gonna call her a woman. And because she had it looked like she had a penis with breasts, and maybe she was intersex or trans or whatever. So this woman, he killed her trying to protect his child, and you just made it worse, basically. Yes. So anyways, Letty is freaking out because Tick is just raging mad. He's like, I'm about to kill somebody mad. And they pull him off of his dad. He goes downstairs and runs into Letty's camera room, and he's trying to find pictures, like if Letty took pictures of the of Titus's pages and whatever. And he's like frantically snatching the pictures off the hooks and all this other shit. And Letty's just standing there freaking the fuck out. She's scared as shit. And he runs up to her and he's like, did you take pictures? And she's like, Titus, calm down. And he's like, don't tell me to calm down. I just want to know, can you tell me if you took pictures of the shit? And she's just standing there taking these deep ass breaths, and he looks down, and then he looks back up at her, and he realizes how scared she is, and then he runs up the stairs. So she looks almost like, this is something she may have experienced before, with her mom having men in and out of the house, and who knows how they treated her mom and all that other shit. She might have experienced some shit like this before and was having a flashback. But anyways, the camera pans down. She was holding a bat. So she was ready to beat this nigga's ass, which I feel like that's okay. Be ready so you don't have to get ready. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. There you go. Now we go back to Ruby. She is pretending to be asleep. I'm going to call, her name is Henrietta or Helen or whatever the fuck as a white woman. I'm calling her Ruby White when she's white because it sounds nice. And I'm just going to call her Ruby when she's black. Anyways, Ruby is back to normal. She's laying on the bed. She's pretending to sleep. William comes in the room. He's walking around the room talking about metamorphosis and how he's been experimenting to try to change people into different people, but the spell doesn't last long. And how Horatio was a scientist, and he was trying to make shit and discover things about the universe, but all he was able to do was just like make magical doorways into places. So that's how they could go from Boston all the way back to Chicago and shit when they was in the tunnels, because the ratio made magic doorways and shit. So anyways, he's walking around talking about butterflies transforming. When caterpillars are in the cocoon, they basically have to melt and turn into butterflies, and they have this such and such lifespan and all this other stuff. And so basically what he wants to do is turn people into other people. And he's experimenting on Ruby. I don't care what nobody says. This is that cat playing with its food kind of niceness that he's displaying to Ruby. He's using her as an experiment, okay? And if it comes out in the end that they end up, falling in love or whatever the fuck, then I'll be wrong. But for now, I don't trust these white folks. He's using her to experiment on, plus other things. So then William lets Ruby know that he knows that she's not asleep, because she's been laying there the whole time pretending to be asleep. So Ruby wakes up. She's just like, I don't know what's going on, but when I was a white woman, I felt like a human. People were asking me what was wrong when I was walking down the street, disheveled and shit like that. And, they were treating me like I was a human fucking being. Instead of looking at me like there was something wrong with me, they were asking me what could they do for me and things like that. So, she's feeling the type of way. She said that the metamorphosis felt like she was coming undone, and it wasn't painful. It just felt like she was coming undone. And she was saying, I never want to experience that again. And then she asks William, is she free to go? And William says that she can come and go as she pleases. She can do whatever the fuck she wants. He doesn't care. And then he goes to the table side and puts the little bottle of metamorphosis potion on the table. And then puts, some money on the table for her. And then he says he got some business to do, and he walks the fuck out. So Ruby, who has said that she doesn't want to do any of this again, in the very next scene we see Ruby White walking down the streets, just happy, feeling like a regular person. Nobody's fucking with her. She can go buy ice cream and she can live her fucking life, and you can just feel the release of all this tension. And they got like the For Colored Girls poem going on in the background, and all this other shit, and you can just feel the release off her chest of not being bothered, just being unbothered. And that was the joy that she experienced that day, was to not be bothered by these white motherfuckers, to be able to go buy some ice cream and be left the fuck alone, to be able to walk down the street and not be stared at, to be able to go to the park and read a fucking newspaper and just live life. And it was, that part I could see is a beautiful thing. Then we go to Tick. He's in his uncle's shop again. I think it's a mechanic shop mixed with a travel section or something. Anyways, because there was like a lot of cars in there and shit too. So he's in there like tending to his wounded knuckles from his dad's face. And here comes Letty. She's coming in. She has a roll of film. She said she did take a picture of Titus's pages. So at some point between Montrose killing Yahima and burning the pages, she took pictures of all of them. Good job, Letty. I love a good backup plan. I love people that think of backup plans. Is a beautiful thing. So yeah. She then tells Tick that he scared the shit out of her. It was traumatizing, and that she never wanted to see him like that again. Or, like just the fact that he was like that scared the shit out of her. And he's like, don't be afraid of me. And they hug, and then they have sex in the car shop. And, his beautiful black back is on display again. He has a lovely back, So these are two traumatized people. And they've been through similar shit, where they don't necessarily know what love is, but they think they found it with each other. And they'll talk about that shit later. But I still get the kind of hint that they're just like having a trauma bonding relationship. Like, you got trauma, I got trauma. If we're in a fucked up situation, it feels like it could be love. So we'll see what happens. And then we go back to Ruby. Ruby is just happy. She's in the tub. She's just relaxing. She's just singing songs and just, yes, today was wonderful. People didn't bother me and shit. And then in walks William. And, William's like, did you enjoy your day or some shit? I don't know what the fuck he said when he walked in. And Ruby is just like, so magic's real. And I just had this whole wonderful day, and sometimes it's hard to be black and a woman, but most days I feel happy with it. It's just then here come these racist motherfuckers to interrupt my life, and then it's just like, and then William says, Ruby interrupted. Like the movie Girl Interrupted. Yes, that is the best part. I love how they just explain what racism it's a simple yet impactful, entertaining way in this episode. That's what it feels like. You just going about your fucking day, minding your fucking business. Here comes Mr. Whitey. What you doing? Where you going? Why you smiling? Why you happy? Like, I'm just jogging because it's good for the body and the exercising and the things. Pop, pop, pop. I mean, you shot like 52 times for jogging. It was so relieving to watch her just walk down I felt that shit in my spirit. I felt her happiness in my spirit when she was walking down the street as a white woman and being not bothered, not looked, none of the things. And that is it. She loves herself. She just don't want to be bothered. Stop bothering me. I don't want to be white. I like my hair. I like my skin tones and how it changes colors during the seasons and how it glistens in the sunshine. And I don't want to be white. I just want to be unbothered. Leave me the fuck alone. Let me live my life. I'm a human. I have feelings and emotions, and I think things, and I have goals, and I want shit, and I want to grow and change and do stuff in the world like every other fucking human. I'm not no fucking entertainment piece for you. I'm not something for you to come and say, oh, you are doing something bad. I'm not your fucking emotional punching bag because you're having a bad day, so let's fuck with the black person today. All the things. But, racist white people and anti-black people of color don't give a fuck. And they don't see you as people because, whatever. So yeah, she feels interrupted, like her life is constantly interrupted and she can't enjoy it. So she basically asked William, like, what's the game here? What's the catch? You're not just giving me superpowers. You could pick any bitch that's of color, any black bitch in the neighborhood. You could pick her. You pick me. What is the catch? And, William's like, why not? Why wouldn't I pick you? Bullshit. You picked her because she's, sister. Letty's sister, and Letty fucking around with Tig, and he got the blood of the man in him and shit. That's why you picked her. But anyways, William basically says that later on he'll need a favor from her, something very small and inconsequential, but not right now. And so she can go and be and do as she pleases, and do whatever the fuck she wants with her newfound whiteness. So then we see the Marshall Field sign. She is at the store. She wants that job. She is still stuck on that motherfucking store. And she's at the interview with the boss. And, her resume is clean. She went to typing training and dictation training and numbers training and all sorts of shit. And Ruby White is ready. She in there ready to be hired by these people. And the boss is just like, oh, you have so many credentials. Tell me about yourself. And she's talking about, her relationship with her mom and how her mom and her sister used to travel around a lot and shit like that. And her mom would take her to these stores and she would just be fascinated by the displays and the bitches selling shit in the stores and all this other stuff. And, she almost let it slip. She almost said her sister's name. Dude hires her on the spot as a manager, and it's just like, That is the privilege of being white. I have my own biases. So based off my biases, I'm either going to give you shit or I'm going to try my damnedest to take away shit based off of how I feel about or what I think when I look at you. So he applies the privilege card and she is hired immediately as manager. He asked her then, what does she think about colored people, black women, and shit like that? And they're talking about Tamara. She's the girl that got hired there, the black girl. And, Ruby White's just like, well, I think they should have the same equal opportunities as we have. Because apparently a bunch of people left the store when the store stopped being white only staff. So he needed to ask the question to see if she wanted to stay or go or whatever. But yeah, he's trying to get up and hug her and do all this weird shit. And then her body starts to do the little werewolf in Paris dance. And it starts to change and shit. So she runs the fuck out to this crate elevator or some shit in the back of the store. And her whole body just starts melting, like her skin is melting off of her and shit, like it's just nasty and whatever. And she don't leave the potion in the room with him, and he thinking it's perfume. He's like, you forgot your perfume. So she couldn't even drink the potion, so she turns into Ruby. Next we go to Montrose. I don't know what the bartender's name is, but he's at the bartender's place, so apparently they go together. And Montrose basically hate fucks him. So basically hate fucking is when like you fuck somebody because you're emotional about some other shit, and so you're using them to feel better. And he hate fucks the shit out of him in the fucking grossest part. I don't care if they fucking, I don't like bodily fluids like that. This nigga gonna spit a jar of spit into his hand before he fucks this nigga. He put on dick lube and shit. And it was just so nasty. I was just like, that is fucking gross. But they fuck. He hate fucking him, crying and shit, holding on to him and all sorts of shit. And, then they turn around and the bartender dude tries to kiss him. Montrose does not want to kiss him. So I'm thinking, maybe he's just on the down low. One of them down low niggas that don't want to call themselves gay and shit and whatever. But I think they have an actual relationship and stuff. And this might be why Atticus' mother was fucking around with George. Maybe because she was like a beard, like she was trying to cover up the fact that Montrose was gay. So, the sexuality is a spectrum. That don't mean he didn't like her and shit. But I'm thinking now, it's like maybe she was like a beard to cover up the fact that Montrose liked the penises and shit. So maybe they didn't have a real relationship. They had like an understanding. And, so maybe this is leaning more towards Tick being George's son. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. Anyways, turns around, doesn't kiss him, doesn't want to kiss him. And then go to Ruby White. She's at the store. She's a manager. She feeling fancy. She feeling fine. I feel deep down she felt like these white people were like good people. They just didn't like black people, but amongst themselves they were decent, and she could live regular amongst them and be happy and whatever. No, when people are fucked up like that, you're just in the devil's playpen now instead of outside of it. And so she's at the store. She feeling fancy. She feeling fine. She sees a little black girl that got hired. She walks up to a little black girl and she's just talking to her about, how she got hired and all this other stuff and how she likes the store and whatnot. And then she's like asking the black girl about her credentials, basically. She's like, well, I'm sure you went to typing class and college and you're educated. She thinks this little black girl got hired because she's educated and shit. The girl got 7th grade education. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying. But Ruby is looking shell shocked because she's like, bitch, I have all of these qualifications and they hired you. So Ruby's feeling some type of way. And low key, she was shading that little black girl throughout this show. She was shading that little black girl in the store, looking at her crazy, saying all sorts of stupid shit to her, not hella hard. She wasn't doing a hella hard. I think she was like what we like to call counter transference, where we personalize shit that other people do, and then we like make it about us, and then we try to put it back and project it back on them. So like, I'm mad that I didn't get hired here and she got hired here, so I'm gonna shade her about her ashy hands. So, but coming from her being Ruby White, she's a white woman, so it just looks like she's being racist. Anyways, we then go to the back. She's hanging out with the other little white girls that work there, and they wearing all the fancy clothes and the fur coats and talking about men and shit that women talk about with each other. And Ruby White's telling them like, oh, it's time for us to go back to work. And they like, bitch, get, lighten up and put on these stilettos and shit. So she put on the stilettos. Then they start talking about black people. They start talking about Tamara, the girl that work at the store. And basically they's all like, I hope they don't hire no more Tamaras and da-da-da, talking shit. And Ruby is starting to recognize that you're still going to be interrupted because you give a shit. You have empathy. You are a black person. You care about these atrocities and shit. So you're still going to be interrupted. You cannot escape it because you care. You are a black person, or even just a white person that cares, that uncomfortable feeling. You will constantly be interrupted in your life with racism or just any kind of conflicts. There's no perfect world. You watched her walk down the street as Ruby White earlier in the episode, and it's like she felt like she was in this happy world for today. Life ain't like that. With no race, nobody. You still gonna come across stupid shit. So she listening to these women talk about this black girl. And then she tried to join in and talk about how, oh, well, she's not qualified anyways. And then they were like, well, she's black. Of course she's dumb. So basically Ruby just like, oh, wait a minute. She thought it was just going to be specifically directed at this black girl, but no, they're racist to all the blacks. Okay, so you're included in that. Black people are stupid. So she's just like, oh, they're still kind of talking about me without knowing who I really am. I can't get away from this shit, right, bitch? You can't. They are talking about asking Tamara if she can take them to the south side so they can hang out with the black people and drink and stuff, and it'll be like a safari. So, going into black neighborhoods was like going to the zoo, basically, where we would see the animals dance and, take part in the rhythmic tribal gyrations of the Negroes and, just observe these creatures doing their creature things, and then we would go back to our white lives with real human beings. This shit is fucked up. The girls are walking out, the white women are walking out, and William is there to pick up Ruby White. And as Ruby White is walking out, she sees Tamara walking out, walking home, and she's just staring at Tamara. So she's still feeling some type of way. She's feeling some type of way about the conversation she had with the white woman. She's feeling some type of way about Tamara. She's just like reassessing her life and wanting to have this career path for most of her life, and really seeing what it's really about. Like, you would have been fucked with within that store as a black woman. You would have never escaped it. You wouldn't have cared about the displays after give it like a week. You've been like, fuck these displays, I hate this job, all the things. She's reassessing. So William's there to pick her up, and the white women are like, oh, who is that hunk of chunk or whatever? I don't find him attractive, but some people do. And she goes over to him and kisses him. He's like, trying to kiss her on the mouth. She turns just completely to the side, kisses her cheek. And then he starts talking to her about that favor he needs her to do tonight. She's going to meet a white woman there that is, that needs her to do that favor. And so William, is telling her that, he's asking her, oh, you don't want me to kiss you as Ruby White? And she was just like, do you want to kiss Ruby White? And he was like, I'll kiss whoever you want me to kiss. So I don't know. I mean, he could like her, maybe. Anyways, or it could just be an experiment, or it's both, or it's a fetish. I don't know. I need to see. I need more. I need more episodes. So anyways, whatchamacallit? William tells her there's this box in his car. She goes to the box. It's a maid's outfit. Next, we see her at the Chicago Lodge serving hors d'oeuvres, however the fuck you say it. Little snacks and shit around the room. As a maid, as her regular self, as Ruby. And, you know, she's walking around, then here comes Christina. She finally shows up because she's an hour late. Ruby's just like, where's this bitch at? Christina finally shows up. She's an hour late. And she basically gives Ruby this rock and tells her to put it in the police captain's office. And Ruby's like, there's police here. These are police officers. You trying to get me killed? Da, 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 da. And Christina's just like, this lodge is William's birthright. And the captain tried to kill him and stab him to death. And he survived. And, you know, now it's time for revenge. So this little rock is supposed to get their revenge. So Ruby goes back in and she sneaks into the captain's office and puts the rock in the drawer. And then she hears the closet man. And it's not a black person. It's some white dude that owes them money, that stole their money. In a closet screaming for help. Now, black people don't do this. I don't know. I guess it's to keep the story running. She went over there to look. Let it be. I wouldn't even be in this situation though. I'm too scary. I don't want to be involved in whatever the fuck. I'm not about to die. I don't want my skin falling off, and I don't want to be white. I don't. But you know, she goes and checks out the sound. Black people don't check out sounds. Fuck you, mean. And she opens the door, and this man with his tongue cut out. This white man. And he's tied up in a closet, and she just like has to cover her mouth to keep from screaming. She's about to leave, and then she hears the police chief walk in. So she has to hide in the closet with this white man, and she is holding his mouth because he's just trying to scream, and scream and shit. And it's like, what? These people tortured you, but you trying to give away this black woman. The hatred runs that deep, y'all. It runs that. So he's trying to scream, make noise, let them know that she's there, I'm assuming. And they're just used to him screaming, so they're ignoring him and shit. And so the captain is in there changing his shirt because he's been dancing all night and sweating like a pig. He has like this black skin all over his chest and shoulders and shit, and it looks like it could be a birthmark, or it could be some other shit. Maybe it's revitiligo, like Uncle Rufus. Who knows? But it's all over his shit. I hope he turns into a full black man and they come after his ass so hard, you know, but whatever. Anyways, they leave the room, or no, then we go back to Ruby. She's in the store, and she's basically she's freaked out after that whole experience. So Ruby White is in the store. She's freaked out after the whole fucking experience. And she goes up to Tamara and she's talking to Tamara. And she's, you know, Tamara's putting the shoes up and she's telling her she's doing it wrong and you need to match these colors to this color. And then Tamara's just looking at her like, I'm trying my best, ma'am. And she's like, you're black. You need to try more than your best. So she's forgetting that she's Ruby White for a second. And she's thinking that she's talking to a peer in the game. And she's like, you need to be more than the best because these white people are crazier than you think, bitch. Next thing you know, you'll be locked up in a closet, and before she could finish, with your tongue cut off, and then before she could finish, her supervisor comes up behind her and asks her, is everything okay? Because she's being loud and everybody can fucking hear her. And she's like, yes, everything's great. You know, Tamara's doing great. And actually, you know, she's just talking about how she's going to invite us to the South Side to have some drinks. So, you know, she turned that conversation around and put that shit on Tamara. Okay, whatever. Tamara didn't want to do that. Tamara wanted to go home and decompress after being traumatized all day at work. But, you know, now she has to take these motherfuckers to the bar in her home area and deal with them after work as well. Point between the party, or between Ruby getting the rock and being back at the store, We go to Letty and Tick, and Letty is developing the film so that Tick can, transcribe it and things like that and decode it and whatever the fuck. And Tick is laying there asleep. I guess he's exhausted. So Letty's, eventually she wakes him up, and, he's already decoded some of it, like, because his name is on his ring, and he knows some of the letters now. So he knows the letters to some of the alphabet. Then Letty says she understands why her father let Yahama go, because, she didn't, we shouldn't be keeping her trapped like Titus did. So she's still under the impression that Montrose let Yahama go. I will add, though, we didn't see a body. Where did Montrose put the body? I don't think Yahama's dead, but you know what? We'll see. We'll see as we go along. Anyways, Tick then tells her that Montrose killed Yahima. And Letty is just like, she goes the fuck off. And she's like, it's these pages, it's these books, they're evil, they're causing us to act crazy and da-da-da. And I'm just like, bitch, this Montrose, he been acting crazy since the beginning of this fucking show because he has PTSD and he has anger issues and all sorts of shit. Like, Tick literally, probably would have killed him if Letty didn't come, because Tick has often thought about killing Montrose because after Montrose beat him as a child. So, Tick is just trying to say, well, it's how you use the spells, and we're going to use them for protection for the house and blah, blah, blah. And then Letty just finishes off by saying, well, like your dad tried to protect you. So basically coming back at him with, look how crazy Montrose got. Montrose been crazy, girl. You don't know Montrose. You don't know this man. You just assuming because he puts on a happy, nice face in front of you that he doesn't have serious fucking issues. And maybe he might be a little bit grouchy because he doesn't want to help his son with this shit. No, bitch. This man has issues. And that's why Tick was just kind of like, that's the type of shit he does. I'm not surprised that he killed Yahima. He didn't say it, but that's the kind of vibe he gives. And Letty is just shocked and appalled and think it's the magic and shit. No, that's that nigga. That's who he is. He was beat as a child. He'd been in the closet for however fucking long, so he can't be his true self around people. He's paranoid by all the racist attacks he's faced. He has issues. He has things going on. He doesn't know how to express his emotions and all sorts of shit. No, bitch, no. But I'm not saying that the magic probably ain't bad, but I ain't seen where the magic was bad when it was with the black folks yet. Okay. And also when Tick was taking a nap, he was dreaming about running through the house again and chasing after his ancestor that had ran away when she was pregnant. And she mouthed something to him. I'm going to rewind it and see what she said. Cause there's lip reading. Whoever's a lip reader out there, let me know what the fuck she said. I don't Google that shit. But anyways, and then instead of escaping like he did in real life, he catches on fire. So next we go to Montrose. He's at the bartender's apartment still, and the bartender's in there with some drag queens. There's probably some transgender folks up in there. They just chilling, walking around, getting dressed, getting ready for this ball they're having. So apparently there were balls. I read about that. There were drag balls and shit like that back in the day in the 50s, and it's all of them times where people could just disappear and nobody could get in trouble for it. It's still like that now, but it's more of a chance that somebody will maybe get in trouble. There's people that have went to jail for messing with the LGBTQ people, so yeah. Bartender's dressed in some lingerie, twirling around the room. And then the other drag queens and transgender folks is talking to him, telling him, oh, y'all finally together? And the bartender dude's like, yeah, shut up and da-da-da. And someone else says they ain't together, they ain't even smacked lips yet, so that everybody know they ain't even kissed yet. And Montrose is just looking at the bartender dude the whole time, just staring the nigga down. And then he puts on this little outfit and starts twirling around in this gold robe, talking about cicadas and shit like that. And Montrose is just staring at him now that I look back on it, maybe he was staring at him with love and affection and shit. So next we go to the bar. Ruby White is there with the other white store clerk ladies and then their supervisor. So they and Tamara. And so they're there, and Ruby White is just sitting in the booth, just shocked after everything she's experienced. She's looking around her. She don't know what to do about this whole situation. She just like, I don't want to be white. Like, being white is even more triggering than just being black. Like, being in the midst of this craziness and understanding how deep the rabbit hole goes is just shocking and appalling. And I'd rather just be black. We got some shit in our groups and stuff, but ain't no shit like it's like, what, it's not pristine and clean, girl. It's not peaceful and happy, girl. They got issues. Them issues don't just spill out onto black folks and people of color. They do that shit to themselves too, bitch. Like, what the fuck? I could never. So she goes outside and she's metamorphosizing back into herself, her skin, doing the whole werewolf in Paris shit. Her skin is falling off, she's molting and all sorts of shit, and she smashes the potion bottle, like, in a kind of final way, like, I'm done, I don't want to be white, being white is trash. So she molts off all her skin, and then she puts this robe on, I guess, that she had back there. And then she hears Tamara and her boss in the back. So apparently the boss is trying to rape Tamara, because, he's trash. And he's all like, just let me smell it. Like some gross, nasty shit. And then Tamara bites him on the fucking mouth and runs off. And he calls her, you nigger bitch. And whatever the fuck, because he's trash. Like, she's supposed to just let you rape her. Like, she's the audacity of your privilege. Now, this is a conscious privilege. A lot of times privilege is unconscious and it's based on how other people see us. This is a conscious privilege where we feel like, we have the right to do fuck shit because of the color of our skin and, where we feel we are in society. So there's different types of privileges. See, you can be aware that you have a privilege and then try to do fuck shit to people, or you can be unaware and just, enjoy the benefits of privilege based off of how other people view you when they see you. So, Ruby sees this, and then next thing you know, we're back where we are at the drag ball. And I think, Montrose is just having an awakening. He's looking around at all the drag queens and transgender folks, and he's like, these are my people. Like, his whole heart is opening up. He's staring at the bartender dude and his little outfit, and he's just like falling in love. And then he goes over and kisses the bartender dude, and then he's like spreads his arms out in ecstasy and starts twirling around. Like, he's just coming into himself at this event. I don't know if he's never been to one before or seen people so open with their sexuality before, but I think that seeing people so open with their sexuality just made him just like, these are my people, we are together, and all this other shit. And the drag queens and transgender folks come and lift him up and twirl him in the air and all this other shit. So, he's coming into himself. I don't know that means he'll come out of the closet and tell anybody outside of the bartender guy and the rest of the community that he's in. But it was a beautiful scene. He still killed Yahima though. Yeah, like I feel like a part of it was the fact that he's closeted. I feel like a part of it was the fact that he's trying to protect his son. But he killed her, and I read some articles on how, like, that really touches on how a lot of transgender and LGBTQ folks are killed by black men, and, how it just kind of shows the horror of it. And just to find out that he's actually a part of that community, and he actually has like a boyfriend that is, and all the things, and it's like, it's just interesting. What do y'all think? Anyways, then we shoot over to Ruby. She is, I called her Rose in the last video. I'm sorry. I don't know. Names are interesting things that I can't be remembering all the fucking time. So Ruby is back at William's house, and Ruby is like, fuck Whitey, basically. I don't care about none of this shit no more. And here come Christina coming out the basement. Ruby asking her, like, why is the basement door the only thing that's the door that's locked in this house? And da 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 da. And, you know, Christina just changed the subject and just tries to relate to Ruby. She's like, I understand what it feels like to be oppressed and shit. I'm going to be surprised if Christina turned out to be some black woman too and shit, you know? But anyways, especially based off of the end of this shit, maybe they could have like 3 people in the same shit, you know? That would be a magical potion for the transgender folks. Like, if they got that shit right so that the people can choose to stay that way, that would be a magical potion. But anyway, oh, it's the cream de cacao. Yes, this shit is bomb. I'm gonna be calm on this. Anyways, Ruby's like, bitch, shut the fuck up. You don't know what I've been through. So anyways, whatchamacallit, Christina says some true shit though. She's like, William didn't give you that shit just so that you could be white. William gave you that shit so you can do whatever the fuck you want. Because magic gives you the freedom to do whatever the fuck you want to do. So Ruby's sitting there thinking about it. And she's like, Christina then says, who are you, uninterrupted? And apparently Ruby feels this type of way because William told her that, whatever the fuck, but whatever. So next we see Ruby White. She's in her boss's office and she basically is telling her boss that I want to quit because, you know, I am just so sexually attracted to you and I just don't feel like it would be right to work at this job while being sexually attracted to my boss. I don't want to put you in a compromising position and shit. And the boss is just sitting there like, oh, because he called her into the office, or she came to his office or something. I don't know. I think he wanted to tell her something too. But he's just looking at her, don't know what to say. So then she turns into this like BDSM shit. BDSM, I think, yeah. And like ties his hands up and, you know, wraps his belt around his neck and then, you know, puts a gag in his mouth. And then that's when the good shit starts. You know, I just feel like the killing of these racists in this show is just a masterpiece. It's an art craft. She tortures that motherfucker, and you know, I feel like it's justified. I don't give a fuck. I said what the fuck is justified. And she proceeds to rape him with her stiletto as the white devil is pouring off of her body. She is molting out of the white skin as she is torturing this white racist and becoming the true black queen that she is. This show is so good. This show is good. And then she turns him over after she's done raping him with her stiletto. This is 1950s. They don't have the technology we have now. They're not going to be able to fix that like it's supposed to be fixed. And he's going to be, you know, shitting wrong for the rest of his anal leakage, shitting on himself for the rest of his fucking life. Because it wasn't enough to kill him. It was just enough to rupture his anus so that he's just going to be shitting fucked up for the rest of his fucking life. You know, anyways. She's hovering over him, covered in the gore of whiteness that came off of her beautiful black skin. And she says, I wanted you to see that a nigger bitch did this to you. It was glorious. It's magical. I loved it. I don't care. I'm not a violent person. But, you know, for art, for the sake of art, when it's not real, I feel like, you know, emotions are justified here. I don't give a fuck. I said what I said. And then, you know, she walks the fuck off. Next, we see Letty in a tub reading the Bible, and Tick comes in. They start talking about their past trauma and how Letty never believed love was real because, you know, her mom had so many niggas, and she was just like, whenever I had sex, I wanted it to be like with somebody that matters, and that's why she was a virgin. So, like I said in like a few videos ago, like, yeah, like, she was around her mom who was fucking a bunch of niggas. It's going to impact how she feels about sex in some way and relationships in some way. So it impacted her in a way where she said, I don't want these niggas touching me unless it matters. And Tick was just like, I don't know what love is. I had this situation in Korea with this Korean girl and it ended strangely. And, you know, I don't know if that was love. I don't know what love is because of what I saw with my dad and how he beat my mom and all sorts of shit. So then Tick proceeds to say that I think this is real though, and you ain't got nothing to worry about and all this other shit. You know what? I mean, it could work out, but I feel like they're bonding a little too much over their traumas and not over like, you make me laugh and I feel comforted by you, and I feel like we have chemistry, and I feel like as an individual person apart from your trauma, you are a great, like shit that like describes who they are as people beyond their trauma. Every time they have sex, it's like it's just based off of the shit that they've been through, and so I'm questioning that a little bit. They could love each other, or they could be just bonding off the fact that they're going through some shit and they both been traumatized in similar ways, and they're dumb. So then Ruby's back at William's house. She's covered in gore and blood and shit again. I think she was. And here comes William walking through the door, and Ruby's like, William, tell me what's in the basement. Why is it locked? And William starts convulsing and cutting up and turning into shit. Christina pops the fuck out of William. So all this time, and then Ruby even says, she's like, all this time you've been William? And Christina just standing there staring. So she's been William all this time. She has not been Montrose. But at the same time, it's kind of like, if they're in love, is she gonna fall in love with Christina and be with her? Are they gonna be together? Because now you look back, it's like, was Christina giving her flirty vibes when she was talking about the potion and how she can do whatever the fuck she wants with it? Is Christina just using her because of Letty? Is Christina just trying to experiment on her? Is it all of the above? What is Christina trying to do here with Ruby? And then we go to we go to Tick. He is translating Titus's pages, and something pops out at him and he freaks the fuck out. He goes to the phone. He calls the operator to call Korea, the girl in Korea. She picks up the phone and he goes, how did you know? What are you? And she was like, I told you. So apparently in the last few episodes ago, when he had called her, she had said something about, I told you not to go back there, or something's gonna die, or someone's gonna die, or bring death, or whatever the fuck she said. So he's just sitting there on the phone crying. He's still in his shit. Him and Letty ain't in love. They in they shit. They going through stuff. The air isn't clear enough for them to fall in love. They're not clear. It's like there's too much shit going on. But he's just in there crying on the phone, and they pan down to the book where he was translated, and the word die is in the book. So I don't know exactly what's happening, or what was in the book that freaked him out, except for the words die. Maybe she predicted that George was going to die, or something like that. But in the next episode, the preview, we get this story about the Korean girl, and surprisingly, she kind of resembles Letty, the haircut, the body shape and things like that. So that's going to be interesting to see, like, what's her story, because it looks like some shit happened in Korea, and she might have some powers or some shit. There's a worm crawling out her ear, and shit was getting destroyed. She was getting wrecked. And a bunch of shit was happening. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen next. But I love the imagery of how racism feels in this episode. I loved how Ruby went through the progression of wanting to be a part of whiteness, to being jaded by whiteness, to understanding that whiteness is trash, and I love being black. Whatever they do to us, is not in comparison to what they do to themselves and the evil that lies within the racist white folks. So, and then the revenge. The revenge was beautiful, it was magical. And I'm just like, how is she going in and out of these buildings covered in blood and gore and shit? Cause yeah, she has these robes that she's covered in, but like her hair is fucked up. Like, is she driving from these places? Cause this is like 1950s, Jim Crow South, and you're a black woman covered in blood and gore, and you're just going from place to place. Like, is she driving so how is she getting from these places and not being accosted or bothered? I mean, I'm not gonna say that you can't even step out the house for a white person to bother you or some shit in Jim Crow South, but it just makes it, from the history books to the movies to documentary, it made it seem like it happened a lot. So I'm just like, how is she just getting from place to place looking like this? But I'm guessing she's taking alleyways and back streets, or she's driving a car. I don't fucking know. Anyways, what did y'all think of this episode? What did you think of the imagery? Do you think Letty and Tick are actually in love, or do you think they're a part of a trauma bond and they're bonding because of their trauma, and they just need something to hold on to as they move through this shit? And then what did you think about Montrose and his recognition of the fact that these are his people? And I don't think he'll come out, but who knows? I mean, as far as you can come out in Jim Crow South, so maybe he'll tell Tick or Letty or people that he knows that he's close to, but I don't think he's gonna be just out in the world holding hands with a man walking down the street. I don't know. No, this is Jim Crow South. I mean, it's bad enough in today's South. We watching P-Valley. It was bad enough in today's South. That's Jim Crow State. He's not gonna come out the closet that far. They could live together, and that could be his roommate and his friend that lives with him. Maybe I don't know. Where do you think they're gonna go with that? And what did you think about him killing Yahama? But then he's hanging around transgender folks, has a boyfriend that's a drag queen, and all sorts of shit like that. Like, what kind of fuckery is that, where you're deeply ensconced in the community, but you killing Yahama? I mean, was it purely because you're trying to protect Tick, or was there some other shit going on there? So yeah, let me know what y'all think of this episode. It was a good episode. I really enjoyed the imagery and what was going on. And yeah, later days.